buckle up because we're diving deep into Gemini to help you understand not just what it is, but why it matters and how it's poised to change things. You ready for this?
What's really intriguing here is that Google isn't just trying to create another chatbot, you know? They're really aiming to bake Gemini into every corner of our digital lives, like search, Gmail, even your smart home.
Yeah, I've seen those headlines about it being in everything from docks to smart thermostats.
Okay.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. What exactly is Gemini?
Well, Gemini is actually a whole family of AI models,
Mhm.
each one designed for a specific task. Kind of like, like a toolbox. You've got your heavy-duty hammer for the big jobs, right?
Mhm.
And a smaller, more precise hammer for finer work.
Okay.
Gemini's got the same idea with models like Ultra, Pro, Flash, and Nano.
Okay, that makes sense. So instead of one AI trying to do it all, Google's built specialists.
Mhm.
But what makes Gemini different from other AI out there? I mean, we already have AVE things like ChatGPT and Bard, right?
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. See, most AI models are trained on just text alone. They're basically word wizards. But Gemini is what we call multimodal. It can understand and work with not just text, but images, audio, video, and even code.
Whoa.
It's trained on this massive data set of all these different forms of information, making it way more versatile and potentially more powerful.
So it's not just reading Wikipedia articles, it's processing YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, and who knows what else.
Yeah.
That's a huge leap. It sounds like Google is trying to make Gemini more like how WE experienced the world.
Exactly. You know, we don't just process the world through words, we use all of our senses.
Yeah.
And that's what Google is aiming for with Gemini.
Okay, so we have all these different flavors of Gemini models, each trained on this massive multimodal data set.
Yeah.
But how do we actually USE them? What's the interface like?
Well, that's where the Gemini apps come in. You might already be familiar with them. They were formerly known as Bard.
Oh, okay.
They're how you interact with the AI.
Got it.
The apps can take in text, voice commands, and even images. Plus, your conversation can seamlessly move from your phone to your computer and back.
So the app is like the steering wheel and the model is the engine.
Perfect analogy.
Okay.
You choose the direction, but the model is the one doing the heavy lifting. And just like with cars, there are different levels of horsepower available.
Right. You mentioned Gemini Advanced earlier. Is that like the turbocharged engine?
It is. Gemini Advanced is a paid subscription,
Yeah.
and it gives you access to these more powerful Gemini models and a bunch of extra features. For example, think about trying to remember a conversation you had a few days ago. It can be tough, right?
Yeah.
Well, Gemini Advanced has this thing called a context window, and it's huge. It can remember and use information from up to 750,000 words in a single conversation.
750,000 words. That's insane.
It's like having an AI that remembers everything you've ever discussed with it.
I can barely remember what I had for breakfast this morning. What else does this souped-up version offer?
Well, there's a feature called deep research. It's basically like having a super-powered research assistant at your beck and call. Imagine asking Gemini a question like, redesign my kitchen. And it actually goes out and creates a full research report for you, covering everything from layout ideas to appliance recommendations.
Right.
It can even pull in real-time information like current pricing and availability.
That would save me hours of scrolling through Pinterest and home improvement websites. Any other cool features tucked away in Gemini Advanced?
Definitely. There's a memory feature.
Right.
And that allows the chatbot to remember details from your previous conversations, so it can offer more personalized responses. And for those who love to travel, there's trip planning. Built right into Google Search, it can create these personalized itineraries that automatically update based on things like your flight times, hotel reservations, and even information from your Gmail.
Hold on. So if I get an email about a delayed flight, Gemini will automatically adjust my itinerary.
Exactly. It's like having a personal travel agent who's always one step ahead.
Okay. I'm sold. Sign me up for Gemini Advanced. But it seems like Google has bigger plans for Gemini than just being a supercharged chatbot. You mentioned it being integrated into other Google products, right?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where things start to get really interesting. We'll dive into that after a quick break.
All right. So before the break, we were talking about how Gemini is more than just a standalone app. It's being woven into the fabric of Google's entire ecosystem.
Right?
Where do we even begin with this?
Well, let's start with something familiar, Gmail. Think about how much time you spend writing emails every day. Gemini can help you craft those emails, suggest subject lines, and even summarize long, complicated threads. It's like having an AI assistant proofreading and polishing everything you send.
So it's not just about catching typos. It's about making sure your message is clear and effective.
Exactly. And this integration goes way beyond just email. Think about Google Docs. Imagine brainstorming ideas with Gemini, getting help with your writing style, or even having it automatically generate content based on a few keywords.
I've actually seen some pretty impressive demos of Gemini writing different kinds of content, from blog posts to social media captions. It's almost like having a co-writer who's always on call.
And it doesn't stop there. In Google Slides, Gemini can help you generate entire presentations complete with images and transitions. No more spending hours searching for the perfect stock photo or fussing with slide layouts.
That's a dream come true for anyone who's ever had to put together a last-minute presentation. Where else is this AI magic happening?
Well, imagine working in Google Sheets and being able to ask Gemini to organize your data, create complex formulas, or even generate charts and graphs based on your numbers. It's like having a data analyst built right into the spreadsheet.
So it's not just about making these individual apps more powerful, it's about connecting them in a way that makes them work together seamlessly.
Precisely. And this interconnectedness goes beyond just productivity tools. Think about using Google Maps to explore a new city. Gemini can summarize reviews of restaurants and attractions, give you personalized recommendations, and even create custom itineraries based on your interests.
So it's like having a hyper-personalized travel guide that knows your preferences better than you do.
Exactly. And it can even take into account real-time information like traffic conditions and weather forecasts to make sure your trip is as smooth as possible.
Okay, and starting to see the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Google is using Gemini to create a more personalized and intuitive experience across all of its products. It's like having an AI assistant that anticipates your needs and helps you get things done faster and more efficiently.
And it's not just about doing things faster, it's about doing them better. Think about Google Drive, where Gemini can summarize entire files and folders, giving you a quick overview of a project without having to wade through mountains of documents.
That would be a lifesaver for anyone who's ever felt overwhelmed by a cluttered inbox or a sprawling project folder. What about other areas like communication and entertainment?
Well, in Google Meet, Gemini provides real-time caption translation during video calls, breaking down language barriers and making it easier to connect with people from all over the world. And on the Google TV streamer, Gemini curates content recommendations based on your viewing history and preferences, so you spend less time searching and more time enjoying.
Wow, it really feels like Gemini is touching every aspect of the digital landscape. But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, let's take a step back and talk about some ways Google is making this AI even more personalized and useful. Have you heard about gems and extensions?
Gems and extensions.
Yeah, those terms sound intriguing. What are they all about?
Well, imagine having your own personal AI assistant that's tailored to your specific needs and interests. That's the idea behind GEMs. They're basically custom chatbots that you can create using natural language prompts.
So if I'm training for a marathon, I could create a gem that acts as my running coach, right? Something that could create a training plan, track my progress, and maybe even offer some motivational pep talks along the way.
Exactly. You could even have it integrate with your calendar and fitness tracker to schedule your runs and monitor your performance. And the best part is you can share your gems with others or keep them private. It's all about putting you in control of how you use this AI.
That's a really cool concept. So what about these extensions? How are they different?
Think of extensions as a way to connect Gemini to other Google services you already use. For example, imagine being able to ask Gemini to summarize your last few emails from Gmail, pull up a relevant YouTube video based on your current conversation, or even create a new event in your Google Calendar.
So it's like giving Gemini access to all my Google apps so it can seamlessly integrate into my existing workflow.
That's the idea. It's all about making Gemini as helpful and integrated as possible. And speaking of seamless integration, have you heard about Gemini Live?
Gemini Live, is that like a live concert but with AI?
Not quite, but it's definitely a more dynamic and conversational AI experience. With Gemini Live, you can actually talk to the AI using your voice, and it responds in a natural-sounding voice, almost like you're having a conversation with a real person.
Okay, that's impressive. But how is that different from just using regular voice commands? I mean, we've already got things like Siri and Alexa, right?
The key difference is real-time adaptation. With Gemini Live, you can interrupt, ask clarifying questions, and even change the subject mid-conversation, and the AI will adjust its responses accordingly. It's a much more fluid and dynamic interaction.
Wow, that does sound a lot more conversational. So what are some things you can do with Gemini Live?
Well, one really interesting application is virtual coaching. Imagine having Gemini Live help you prepare for a job interview, give you public speaking tips, or even coach you through a difficult conversation. It's like having a personalized AI mentor right in your pocket.
I love the idea of having an AI coach to help me overcome my fear of public speaking. That would be a game changer.
And the crazy part is Gemini Live is supposed to eventually gain visual understanding through your phone's camera. So it could potentially see and respond to your surroundings, making the interaction even more immersive.
Hold on. So it's like having an AI that can actually see what I see. That's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It's pretty mind-blowing stuff. And speaking of mind-blowing, let's talk about Imagen 3.
Imagen 3, is that some kind of high-tech imaging device?
Not exactly. It's the incredibly powerful image generation model built into Gemini. Remember how we talked about Gemini being multimodal? Well, Imagen 3 takes that to a whole new level.
So this is the part of Gemini that lets it create images.
Yes, and it's designed to be more accurate, creative, and detailed than its predecessor Imagen 2. You can ask it to create images based on text descriptions, combine different image styles, and even make edits to existing images, all with incredible realism and precision.
Okay, that eye is impressive. But I have to ask, with all this talk about AI generating images, isn't there some controversy around that? Especially when it comes to generating images of people.
There is. It's a complex issue with lots of ethical considerations. Google is taking a cautious approach, focusing on making sure their image generation technology is used responsibly and doesn't contribute to the spread of misinformation or harmful content.
It definitely seems like there's a fine line to walk when it comes to powerful technology like this.
Yeah,
It's exciting, but also a little bit daunting.
I agree. But it's important to have these conversations and to approach these advancements with both enthusiasm and a healthy dose of caution.
Well said. And speaking of approaching things responsibly, Google has also developed a special version of Gemini specifically designed for teens.
That's right. It's called Gemini for Teens, and it's available through Google Workspace for education accounts. It has a bunch of extra safety measures built in, like a tailored onboarding process, and an AI literacy guide to help young people use AI in a safe and responsible way.
So it's like training the next generation to be savvy and ethical AI users. That's really important.
It is. We need to equip young people with the knowledge and skills to navigate this increasingly AI-powered world. Okay, I know we've covered a lot of ground here, but let's circle back to those different types of Gemini models we mentioned earlier, ready to dive into what they can really do.
Absolutely. You mentioned Gemini Ultra being the most powerful. What kind of crazy stuff can it do? Absolutely. You mentioned Gemini Ultra being the most powerful. What kind of crazy stuff can it do?
Well, Ultra is the one you call on for the really tough problems, like deciphering those crazy physics problems, or analyzing these dense scientific research papers. There's even talk about it being able to generate images directly, but that's still under wraps for now.
So it's like having a research supercomputer at your fingertips.
Exactly. Then there's Gemini Pro, which is more about, understanding and reasoning like us humans. It's great for planning, problem solving, and even generating different creative text formats. Think poems, code, scripts, musical pieces, emails, letters, you name it. And there's a new version, Gemini 1.5 Pro, that can handle even more data, like video and audio, making it incredibly adaptable.
So Pro is like the Swiss Army knife of AI models, ready for anything.
You got it. And just like any good tool, it's getting upgrades all the time.
Okay, so we've got Ultra the Brainiac and Pro the All-Rounder. What about Flash? Where does that fit in?
Flash is all about speed. If you need to summarize a massive document, translate languages on the fly, or quickly extract, key info from a pile of data, Flash is your go-to.
So it's like the cheetah of the Gemini family.
Yeah.
All about speed and efficiency.
Exactly. And they've just released Gemini 2.0 Flash, which can now generate images and audio, too.
Wow, they're not slowing down, are they?
Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, we have Nano. This one seems different.
Yeah. Nano is the most compact model, designed to run right on your device without needing to connect to the cloud. It's already powering things like Smart Reply in your messaging apps and voice dictation on your phone.
Hold on, so my phone actually has a tiny Gemini brain tucked away inside it.
It does, and that's just the beginning. They're planning to use it in future versions of Android to alert users about potential scams and even integrate it with the Pixel Weather app and TalkBack for visually impaired users.
That's a great example of how AI is becoming so seamlessly integrated into our everyday lives. We're using it without even realizing it.
Absolutely. And it raises some pretty big questions, like how will this change our relationship with technology? Will we become overly reliant on AI, or will we learn to use it as a tool to enhance our own capabilities?
Those are the million-dollar questions, aren't they? And I don't think there are any easy answers. But one thing's for sure, AI is here to stay. And Gemini is a major force shaping its future.
I agree. It's a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. It's up to us to decide how we use it and what kind of future we want to create with it.
Well said. So, listener's name, we hope this deep dive into Gemini has given you a better understanding of this game-changing technology. It's complex and evolving rapidly, but we hope you're leaving this conversation feeling a bit more informed and maybe even a little bit inspired.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this journey. It's been a fascinating exploration.
And remember, this is just the beginning. The world of AI is constantly evolving, and Gemini is right at the forefront. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions. We'll be back with another deep dive soon.